Well, we'd like to welcome all who are joining us for the meeting this evening. And we're going to begin by singing song number 135, Jehovah's Warm Appeal, Be Wise, My Son. And then we'll ask Brother Jason Basil to open with prayer. As was mentioned in our prayer, we got a little bit of an abbreviated attendance here. We had some inclement New York weather, and I won't tell you how much weather, because if you're from Canada, you'll make fun of us. But nonetheless, most of our attendance will be on Zoom tonight. But still, we'll have some comments here from the hall as well. And it's a very exciting meeting for us because these opening chapters of Isaiah tonight, 3 through 5, encourage us all to look at ourselves individually. When you look at God's people in the past, as a group, Jehovah is passing judgment upon their actions, but truly individually, they all had to make the decisions that they did, so that as the group, they fell away from God. So today, we analyze our own selves as we read these words individually, so that as a congregation, we can either draw closer to and not away from our Father. And so that's exciting. That begins with Jehovah had a right to expect more. We'll entertain some comments in our spiritual gems, and then we'll have a very practical session with our Apply Yourself to the Field ministry. I think you'll enjoy that too. A governing body update number 7, and then our congregation Bible study to finish. And so in order to begin, we'll ask Brother Adam Geiger to give the part, Jehovah had a right to expect more.
So what kind of grapes are you producing? Wild grapes or fine grapes? It's kind of a question I really didn't think about until I looked at this part, and to look at it that way. And let's take a look as to why we kind of bring this to our discussion today. If we go to Isaiah chapter 5, we'll see this song that vividly really describes the scene at this time and why it is an excellent illustration to prove this point here. If you turn to Isaiah chapter 5, verses 1, we'll consider verse 2, and then we'll also then consider just the first part of 7a. So, let me sing, please, to my beloved, a song about my beloved one and his vineyard. My beloved one had a vineyard on a fruitful hillside. He dug it up and rid it of stones. He planted it with a choice vine, a choice red vine, built a tower in the middle of it, and he hewed out a winepress in it. Then he kept hoping for it to produce grapes, but it produced only wild grapes. And 7, for the vineyard of Jehovah of armies is the house of Israel. The men of Judah are the plantation he was fond of. So here we see this really good picture in our mind. You can just imagine this beautiful hillside, and then this vine dresser goes in and he starts clearing it, gets rid of the stones, he gets rid of the shrubs, works really hard to then till the soil. He takes those stones, massive ones, some that it just takes forever to dig up, and then starts building walls, builds terraces, builds walls so that it doesn't erode the soil, creates the perfect environment to grow grapes. Then you also consider, too, what he chose. Here it mentioned there that he chose a choice of the red vine. And what this means is he actually took an actual vine and he just kind of propagated or planted it into his vineyard. He didn't want to take chance and get some, good seeds and come to find out they're no good. So he picked a vine that was going to produce fine grapes. Also, too, here it mentioned how he built a tower. Most time people just built kind of small shelters, but he really cared about this vineyard. He built a tower out of stone to protect that vineyard from wild animals, robbers. He gave these vines the best chance to produce the greatest product, the greatest grapes you could ask for and want. But instead, what do we see here? It said it only produced wild grapes. If you look in your workbook here, you'll see that image there, and you can kind of see this look of disappointment on this poor wine dresser's face. And it's really understandable because what we just described took some serious time. This wasn't something that he just did in a season. If you were to just even plant the vines itself, you would take about 3, maybe 5 or 6 years before you'll start to really get any fruitage that's worth anything. But then there was more to it with that because this was just a bare hillside. So you can imagine how long it took. It took several years, several seasons, this anticipation, doing everything the right way. The wine dresser was Jehovah. So he did everything right. And what's interesting about this illustration is that he kind of personified the vine because it wasn't a bad vine. The vine chose to grow wild grapes. And so you think, well, what's so bad about wild grapes? Well, when you look into it, you'll see how wild grapes were very small, loaded with seeds, were worthless. They're even known as rotten berries. They were bitter. They tasted terrible. So I can even imagine in the photo there how he might have just been like, oh, can't believe it. He might have even tasted one just to double check. And then just instantly, just that sheer disappointment as is going through his mouth, the seeds, the bitterness, the rotten flavor. Yes, it was a really good, vivid illustration to describe the nation of Israel. And it really makes sense, too, because when you consider the time there was with the nation of Israel, from the point of them leaving Egypt in 1513 BCE to this point when Isaiah wrote these words, you're looking about 750 years. It's about 750 years of Jehovah working this nation, providing everything. There are some frustrations with his people up to this point, where you'll see how he has them in the wilderness, and then they're there for 40 years. Then we get the times of the judges. They got the Mosaic Law produced. They weren't happy with just the judges. Jehovah tells them, they ask for a king, and he tells them, hey, this is what's going to happen if you have a king. What do you want to do? We still want a king. So what does he do? He provides the kings. We had some good kings, but a lot of series of bad kings. The nations are separated. You have the 10-tribe nation and the tribe of Israel here. At this point, Jehovah is disappointed and he's fed up. In fact, with this part here that asks, Jehovah had the right to expect more. Let's look at that point there in 5 and verse 7b now and see what we see here. It says, chapter 5, 7b says, he kept hoping for justice, but look, there was injustice. For righteousness, but look, a cry of distress. Here we see what Jehovah was expecting out of this vineyard, out of this nation. And was it really too much to ask? The answer is no way. When you consider what Moses said years ago about the prediction of if the nation of Israel left Jehovah, they would be like the vines of Sodom. On a scale of 1 to 10, Sodom's a 10. You can't get any worse than that. And that's where they were at. And the reason for it was the gross immorality, the idolatry, and how they treated the lowly ones and the poor ones. So at this point, Jehovah's frustration, he had it. 750 years of this, and he's done. And we can see that, and we know that, because when you look at chapter 5 and you go to verse 5, actually you consider there 4 and 5, it says, what more could I have done for the vineyard that I have not already done? Why, when I hoped for grapes, did it produce only wild grapes? Now, please, let me tell you what I will do with my vineyard. I will remove its hedge, and it will be burned down. I will break down the stone wall, and it will be trampled on. I will make it a wasteland. It will not be pruned or hoed. It will be overgrown with thorn bushes and weeds, and I will command the clouds not to send any rain on it. These are pretty strong words, but we get the point here. Jehovah is done. He more or less just knocked the wall over, said, I'm not doing any more with this, and he walked away from it. He said, those vines, you're on your own. And that's what took place after this point. Yeah, there were times where Jehovah helped out a king when they were good, but at this point, Jehovah was done with the nation of Israel until the Babylonians came in. So then, how does this apply, and how can we consider it for our day? Well, there's 2 words that came to mind here with this that kind of are talked about, that of being frustrated and disappointed. And when you consider those 2 words, they have similar meanings, but they are different. Disappointed is sad or displeased, or frustrated is a feeling, an expression of distress and annoyance because of the inability to change, and then disappointed is sad or displeased because someone or something has failed to fulfill one's hopes and expectations. And so, kind of another way to describe it with frustration, it's kind of surface. We can easily get frustrated, but as soon as we see some change, we kind of forget about the frustration. Frustrations kind of are very shallow and just forgettable. But frustration, one after another, can lead to disappointment. Disappointment is something that is just really knocks the wind out of your sails, and you're done with it. And it's going to take a lot from that other party to get back so that you are not disappointed with them. Because you're not there to help anymore. You've done all that you can. That's what disappointment is. So then how does that apply here with the congregation? If we commit a sin, are we frustrating Jehovah or disappointing him? Not necessarily. What if it's a serious sin that results in us having to get some strong counsel, or we meet with the brothers and we end up being reproved or even removed from the congregation for a while? Have we frustrated Jehovah, or have we disappointed him? Again, not necessarily. See, if we are willing to make a change and work towards that, we still produce fine grapes. So then how do we know if we disappoint Jehovah? Well, basically, 2 different words kind of help sum it up. Our actions and our attitude. If we decide to go about a course and we get Jehovah talking to us through the daily text or the watchtowers, or someone gives us some counsel, Does it rub us wrong? Are we feeling a little annoyed? Are we kind of frustrated with that? Are we the number of times that someone made a comment that probably pertains to us and we're just tired of hearing it? If we're frustrated, then I can tell you that probably Jehovah's frustrated with you too. And if there is no change, then it could lead to Jehovah being disappointed. And then even more so, if we have an attitude of like, you know what, I know I'm doing something wrong and I just don't care. I don't care what the publications say. I don't care what they say. I'm going to do what I want to do. At that point, you have disappointed Jehovah, because Jehovah, he has the right to expect more out of you. So really, it is a great example, and we can really just kind of reflect on our own. The only ones who can determine what kind of grapes that we're producing, whether it's fine grapes or wild grapes, is you and Jehovah. So may we just do our best. Sometimes we need to be pruned a little bit. We are great vines. Jehovah paid the highest price for us. We will produce fine grapes. But then we decide, what are we going to do? Are we going to produce the fine grapes or the wild grapes? May we always do our best just to produce fine grapes. Turn our attention back to Jordan.
Thank you, Adam. Jehovah certainly had a right to expect more. And now for our spiritual gems, Brother Mark Laftaney.
Let's start our gems discussion off with reading from Isaiah, another one of Jehovah's proclamations. If we could have a reader for Isaiah chapter 5, verses 8 and 9. Isaiah 5, 8 and 9. Brother Gustafson, please.
Woe to those who join one house to another house, and who annex one field to another field, until there is no more room, and you live by yourselves on the land. Jehovah of armies has sworn in my ears that many houses, though great and beautiful, will become an object of horror without an inhabitant.
An object of horror. What does your research tell you about the meaning of this proclamation? Hope I can see your hand. Let's hear from you, please.
Looking at Proverbs 20:21, that wonders the inheritance is being got by greed at first, but looking at this, our future will not be blessed. So, looking at today's spiritual gems, however, we are greatly breaking God's laws regarding property.
Thank you for that, Sister Basil. Sister Fisher.
Yes, and so some were turning housing, a loving provision from Jehovah, into a property business. He had specific laws in place, like to not sell their land, which is what they were doing, and desiring more. So this greedy attitude, it really had to be disappointing to Jehovah.
Thank you. And maybe I'd ask, what gave Jehovah the authority or the right to set this standard? Brother or Sister Rodish, let's get your comment.
Jehovah owns the land. He says it's his land. And he parceled it out so that every person every family had a land, a piece of land that was theirs. And that would protect the whole nation from going into deep poverty. But by selling it and for one person to accumulate many places, that put hardship on other people. It was greedy, as we see often in the world today. Jehovah had protected against that, but they were not listening. They were being greedy. They were abusing their family inheritance. They were abusing the poor. And so that, because he said it's my land, he had the right to say that.
Thank you very much, Sister Rodish. Thank you for wrapping that up for us. Now, what did your prospecting dig up this week? Sister Gustafson.
Well, in Isaiah chapter 4, verse 5, that verse really convinced me of the unchangeableness of Jehovah's personality, because there he speaks of creating over Mount Zion or Jerusalem a cloud, smoke, and a bright flaming fire. Well, these elements reminded me of how Jehovah protected and led the Israelites after they left Egypt using the same things like pillar of fire and cloud and even smoke over Mount Zion. So Jehovah was again promising that same protection. So what I learned is that Jehovah will always protect and fight for his people.
Thank you. Sister Saint Hill.
Okay. Isaiah 5:20 reads, "Woe to those who are saying that good is bad and bad is good." The 2002 Watchtower said, "In dense darkness, it's impossible to see anything. One easily becomes disoriented. Similarly, those in spiritual darkness lack perception, and some become disoriented in a spiritual sense. They can lose the ability to distinguish truth from falsehood, good from bad. Those who dwell in spiritual darkness are being influenced by Satan, the god of darkness, and thus they're alienated from Jehovah, who is the source of life. So how blessed we are to know and serve the God of life and truth, Jehovah."
Thank you, Sister Saint Hill. Let's now hear from Sister Natalie Purnell.
I enjoyed Isaiah 5, verse 21. And this was the research guide mentioned how it was addressed to the judges of the land. And we can compare it to our elders today, how they humbly accept counsel from fellow elders and adhere closely to organizational instructions. And applying this to myself, I think it's good. It's a good thing to be shown that I'm wrong about something. We all are in one way or another, but it humbles a person and it allows them to get Jehovah's view of a situation, and that's the best view to have.
Thank you, Natalie. Nice comment. Brother Mark Turner.
I appreciated verse 15. Last week or 2 weeks ago, we had an article about how to respond to injustice. It says it's not wrong for us to get angry. Jehovah gets angry. When you look at verse 15, Jehovah says, "How dare you crush my people and grind the faces of the poor in the dirt." So we sense Jehovah's anger, and that's actually reassuring. That means that he sees every single act of injustice on earth today. It bothers him. He wants to fix it, and he will.
Thank you for that, Mark. Sister Cece Farning.
Chapter 4, verse 6 shows us how Jehovah cares for our comfort in challenging situations. It doesn't say he will subdue the heat or stop the rain and storms, but he'll provide us protection. It reminded me of the problems that we experience in life and how it's similar. When we're going through a figurative storm, we should remember to look for the booth or the means of protection that Jehovah is providing us through our trial, because it's always there.
Thank you, Cece. That was a very heartwarming comment. Sister Lopez.
Chapter 5, verse 18 is mentioned in the Insight book that it is similar to a draft animal who's dragging along cords behind, and that was a description of how they were attached to their sins. And when you think of someone dragging guilt behind them, you can think of that as something like, oh, they feel guilt over a sin and they're carrying the guilt with them. But that's not what this was. This wasn't any kind of thing about repentance. This is the same people who in verse 20 are saying good is bad and bad is good. The sin and guilt they're carrying behind them, those things are good to them, and they're continuing to drag it along. No wonder Jehovah needed to step in.
Oh, thank you. Very enlightening. Sister Chloe Watkins.
I appreciated Isaiah chapter 3, verse 16. In the following verses, it brings out how the daughters of Zion, they're acting haughty, they're walking with their heads high. So it reminds me that Jehovah cares about how we present ourselves. He wants us to be presentable, but he also cares. He cares more about the humble, kind attitude that we have, more than the outward appearance. Jehovah truly appreciates true beauty that comes within the heart.
Thank you, Chloe. And Brother Alex Lopez will be our last comment tonight.
Appreciate chapter 5, verse 24. And speaking of the unrighteous, it says, "Therefore, just as the tongue of fire consumes the stubble and dry grass that shrivels in the flames, their very roots will rot." And I thought that was interesting because we can see a lot of famous people nowadays, and they can do terrible things, felonies, and they can still come back and achieve the same or even more fame than they had before. But Jehovah, in his true justice, at a certain point in the future, will not let that happen anymore. Their very roots will rot. The means that they have for coming back will be gone. And how much we look forward to the day when that perfect justice will be executed.
And no more wickedness. Thank you for that, Alex. Thank you for your gems, friends.
Thank you, Mark. Really appreciate that. We're going to go into our Bible reading. So if you don't mind turning to Isaiah chapter 5, and we're going to look at 1 through 12. We're going to invite Ben Julio up here, and he'll be doing this reading for us.
Let me sing, please, to my beloved, a song about my loved one in his vineyard. My beloved had a vineyard on a fruitful hillside. He dug it up and rid it of stones. He planted it with a choice red vine, built a tower in the middle of it, and hewed out a winepress in it. Then he kept hoping for it to produce grapes, but it only produced wild grapes. Now, you inhabitants of Jerusalem and men of Judah, please judge me between me and my vineyard. What more could I have done for my vineyard that I have not already done? Why, when I hoped for grapes, did it produce only wild grapes? Now please, let me tell you what I will do to my vineyard. I will remove its hedge, and it will be burned down. I will break down its stone wall, and it will be trampled on. I will make it a wasteland. It will not be pruned or hoed. It will be overgrown with thorn bushes and weeds, and I will command the clouds not to send any rain on it. For the vineyard of Jehovah of armies is the house of Jerusalem of Israel. The men of Judah are the plantation he was fond of. He kept hoping for justice, but look, there is injustice. For righteousness, but look, a cry of distress. Woe to those who join one house to another house, and who annex one field to another field, until there is no more room, and you will live by yourselves on the land. Jehovah of armies has sworn in my ears that many houses, though great and beautiful, will become an object of horror. Without an inhabitant for 10 acres of vineyard will produce but 1 bath measure, and a homer measure of seed will produce only 1 ephah. Woe to those who get up early in the morning to drink alcohol, and who linger late into the evening darkness until wine inflames them. They have harp and stringed instrument, tambourine, flute, and wine at their feasts, but they do not consider the activity of Jehovah, and they do not see the work of his hands.
That was really good. You should be really proud of yourself, Ben. I think you read exceptional for your age, but beyond that, I think you've improved between the readings that I've heard you read, and that just shows you practice well. But I want to give you a gift, okay? In the first study, or in the study you're working on 5, the first bullet point says prepare well. And something that really excellent readers do is they read whole groupings of words. And so as you age and you practice, try to allow your mind to read ahead of what you're saying. And your brain is so incredible that it'll actually read the whole group, and you'll start reciting behind where your eyes are. And what that'll allow you to do, it'll allow you to grab context for your emotion as you read. And if you do that, you'll be even more outstanding. So thank you. As we go to the apply yourself to the field ministry, we're going to look to Zoom, and Sister Natalie Purnell is going to be with Sister Gustafson, and they're going to be starting a conversation, and they're going to feature a video from the Teaching Toolbox.
Hi, good morning. My name is Natalie, and we're just out talking with our neighbors, sharing with them a positive thought from the Bible.
Oh, hello. Sure. What would you like to share?
Well, I noticed the little toys on your porch, and I know family is one of the most important things to many people. Do you think that it's possible to have a happy family?
Yes, I do. It does take work though, I think, especially when kids are involved. Maybe even some marriage counseling.
Thank you for sharing your thoughts with me. I'm sure it does take effort. I have a short video to show you. It's less than a minute, and it features a key scripture. So it's right here, and it's how can you have a happy family? So what did you think?
I liked it. It was short, and I like the scripture that it mentioned. It does start with the parents first, which was interesting. I want to show my husband too.
I'm glad you feel that way. And that scripture is found in Ephesians 5, verse 33. I can send you the information if you like.
Yeah, okay, sure. Yes, my number is 576-657-5677.
Okay, I just sent it. Thank you. Maybe I can come next week, the same day and time, and I can share with you another thought from the Bible.
Yeah, okay. I should be home.
Okay, and I'm sorry, I didn't get your name.
It's Celine. Nice to meet you.
Okay, nice to meet you, Celine, and I'll see you next time.
Natalie, thank you. We wanted to clap here too, but you're over there, so we think you did a great job. With your lesson from Love People, the Love People book, you're working on the point of listening and not talking too much. And a good friend of mine named Paul told me something that changed the way I view teaching in general, which is not just what you were doing, but also in just all forms of the ministry. And he said that every time you speak, when you're teaching, you're either giving someone a question or you're making a statement. And that's profound. Everything that we say is either a statement or a question. Now, when you view your teaching from that angle, you can start to analyze, do I make a lot more statements or do I make a lot more questions? And you can begin to adjust how you teach. And so listen to that as you teach in the future. But I thought you did great. Thanks, Natalie. Okay, so for our next point, our next talk is following up. This will be informal witnessing. We're going to tell the person about the JW Library app and help him load it on his phone or her phone. And this is going to be Sister Carrie Jackson and Christine Nino.
Oh, I love it when a patient cancels. We never get to sit down.
Seriously, and I need the extra coffee today. I was so late. I was up so late last night doom scrolling. Speaking of which, remember the video you sent me for my son, the whiteboard thing about managing devices? I was trying so hard to help him limit his social media, but look at me. I need even more help.
Yeah, same. I was really working on keeping my phone out of my reach and texting while I'm driving, but I need to do better at that too. But the big theme of the video is self-control, right? So I guess it's a lifelong thing I guess I have to work on.
Yeah, that's true, but I also think of it as mental toughness. And I read a New York Times article about it recently, and it's just been on my mind.
Oh, I love the New York Times app. They have such a good app. I like to just click on today and read a few little blurbs, and I feel like that helps me limit how much news, so it's not so stressful. But I have to say, my favorite app that I use every day is JW Library. Have you ever used that one before?
No, and I don't think I've heard of it either.
Well, you know, you had mentioned that you love the Bible, and it's really helped me to get in a good routine of Bible reading. And what's cool is you get the whole thing for free. You don't have to pay for upgrades, and there's no ads. So it's definitely the best app for reading the Bible.
That's interesting. I've never thought of reading the Bible on a device. You tell me about Bible reading, and I think of like the old Bible that my family has in the house.
Right. And it's so easy because then you can always have it with you. If you want to look for it in your app store, it's called JW Library.
Oh, oh, it's purple?
Yeah, the purple one there. And I see you have it got downloaded. There's a Bible icon at the bottom, and you'll
Okay.
see those three dots on the upper right-hand side, and you can select different languages or translations. I like the first one that says Study Bible. It's just an easy translation that's, you know, easily understandable, but you can choose whatever one you want.
Yeah, I think that one that you mentioned sounds good, the study one. I'll download that one.
Okay, and then there's your bookmark, so you never have to lose your place right there. And now we can compare notes, see what we've been learning.
That sounds fun. Yeah, I like that. That's a good idea. Reading the Bible makes me feel good, but sometimes I question if I'm actually learning something and understanding it.
Oh, right. I feel like we definitely all need help with that. And that's another reason I think this app is so good is it has a lot of Bible guides in it. And what do you think you're into? Like, if you're reading the Bible, do you want to know history or answering life's big questions or like, how's the Bible practical? Like, what are you looking for?
Well, definitely not history. And I don't know if I have the mental capacity right now for big questions, but definitely I can find useful something practical, the practicality of it.
Yeah, and then I think you'll really like this one. If you go into library and then under books, there's this one that's called Enjoy Life Forever, an
Okay.
interactive Bible course. So that one, How Can the Bible Help You in Lesson One? I feel like you would love the article at the very end. It's 12 Secrets of Successful Families.
Yeah, I think that one looks good. Raising my son and all that would definitely be practical with this lesson and successful families.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Well, if you take a look, actually, you know what? I think our next patient just showed up, so I'll go help them check in.
Okay, thanks, Gary.
Okay.
Thank you, Carrie, very much. We appreciated you handling that. You had a lot to do, really, to introduce, download the app, help him load it on his phone, and then the point you're working on was share information that they need and show them how a Bible study can actually help them. And I didn't have a pencil and to tap you until you were going to be overtime, but you saw that you had another appointment. But that was a lot to do, and I thought you did an outstanding job. I love the questions you asked. I loved your energy about the Bible study, and anyone would have a real privilege to learn that from you. For our next part, we're going to be looking at making disciples, and we're going to encourage a Bible student who is dealing with family opposition. This is Sister Sylvia Flay and Sister Hardy.
Thank you so much, Sylvia, for meeting me at this cafe. I was just talking with my mom, and she just asked if we don't do the Bible study at our house anymore.
Well, I'm sorry, Chloe. What changed your mind?
Well, I've been loving our study, and I've even been trying to make some changes in my life according to Bible principles. And so I was talking with my family about the upcoming plans for the coming year festivities. And I knew it was going to be hard on my mom because we usually do a lot of shopping and cooking together. And I think she was just getting really overwhelmed by all the things that might be changing. and she's just concerned I'm not making good choices. And I do feel bad. I feel like I'm letting them down.
Oh, Chloe, I'm sorry you're going through this. It's true that we don't want to hurt our family's feelings, and it's human to want your parents' approval because you love them. But I'm very proud of you, Chloe, because you are putting your loyalty to Jehovah ahead of your family. And I know it's not easy, but remember that the more you set and achieve spiritual goals, the more opposition you will get from people you love. And Jesus warned us about this in Matthew 10:34-35. Let's read it together. Do you mind reading it?
Yeah, I can read it. It says, "Do not think I came to bring peace to the earth. I came to bring not peace, but a sword. For I came to cause division with a man against his father, and a daughter against her mother, and a daughter-in-law against her mother-in-law."
So when our family members feel our loyalty is to Jehovah, they may feel we are rejecting them and have created a division like that caused by a sword.
Yeah, but I'm just changing my beliefs. It doesn't mean that I'm going to stop loving them in any way or stop doing things with them.
And that's true, but they don't know that. So you need to reassure them of that. That's why when conflict arises with them, it's important to reason in a loving way and show empathy for them to try to see things from their viewpoint and listen carefully to understand their concerns. This could be a good opportunity to share your beliefs with them if they allow it.
Yeah, I have found some ways to share some things with my parents, and sometimes they've listened, but I do think I could be a little bit more understanding with how they're feeling, and I can continue to plan things with my mom, just things that wouldn't go against Bible principles.
And you're doing a great job, Chloe. Your good Christian conduct will reflect and reassure your love for them, and at the same time, glorify Jehovah's name. As it mentions in 1 Peter 3:16. Do you mind reading that one too?
Yeah, it says, "Maintain a good conscience so that in whatever way you are spoken against, those who speak against you may be put to shame because of your good conduct as followers of Christ." Yeah, that's so true. I know my parents have noticed my progress. They noticed a difference. Even my dad was thanking me the other day for just helping the family more around the house.
And that's good to hear, Chloe. Remember that Jehovah will always be there to support you when you turn into him in prayer. And one of my favorite scriptures reminds us of this. It's found in Isaiah 41:10. And notice what it says. It says, "Do not be afraid, for I am with you. Do not be anxious, for I am your God. I will fortify you. Yes, I will help you. And I will really hold on to you with my right hand of righteousness." Isn't that reassuring? And of course, I'm also here to support you.
Thank you so much, Sylvia. It's definitely made me feel better, and I'm gonna keep these Bible verses in mind. Thank you for being so encouraging.
Now, why don't we pray for Jehovah's blessing and we can continue with your study?
Okay.
Sylvia, I thought that was outstanding. I really appreciated how you didn't shy away from what was affecting her. In fact, you were working on identifying obstacles to progress and helping your student to overcome those obstacles. And we don't do that by imagining that they're not there or making them seem as that they have a choice not to. In this case, you helped her to see that that's going to be an obstacle for her, and then you taught her how to deal with it. Your scripture choices were outstanding too. I just loved how you approached that whole part. Thank you for caring for that. And now as we move on to living as Christians, we're going to sing song number 65, which is Move Ahead, and then we'll begin with our local needs. So for our local needs, we're going to consider the 2025 Governing Body Update number 7.
Welcome. In this program, we'll share exciting highlights from the 2025 Service Year Report. We'll also share some encouraging experiences from the campaign we had in September. But first, here are some updates. On October 24th through 26th, 2025, a special convention was held in Kobe, Japan. Over 3,000 delegates attended from 35 countries. The peak attendance was 22,591. A highlight was the baptism of 93 new brothers and sisters. Conventions strengthen our brotherhood. They also give a powerful witness. A delegate from Mauritius related this experience. A hotel chef asked, "What kind of group is this?" I explained we were Jehovah's Witnesses attending a special event. He said, "Everyone wearing this badge is so refreshing, polite, and always smiling." Later, he brought a colleague and said, "These are the wonderful people I mentioned, well-dressed, courteous, and impressive." He said he might even attend the convention on his day off. Toward the end, he shared, "I've met foreign missionaries before, but you're completely different. You're truly refreshing, and I actually look forward to coming to work every day because of you." Pure worship glorifies Jehovah. While conventions bring joy, some of our brothers have faced very different circumstances recently. Natural disasters. The Philippines faced multiple natural disasters in the span of 7 weeks. They had 5 typhoons and 2 significant earthquakes. As a result, nearly 2,000 publishers were displaced and 99 homes were destroyed. And an additional 548 homes and 36 kingdom halls were damaged. 10 of our brothers and sisters were injured, but thankfully, none of our brothers and sisters were killed. 12 disaster relief committees have been appointed to coordinate relief aid. In Jamaica, on October 28, 2025, Hurricane Melissa struck as a Category 5 storm, with winds of nearly 300 kilometers or 185 miles per hour. This was one of the strongest hurricanes ever recorded in the Atlantic Ocean. Deadly floods and landslides also hit Jamaica's southern coast. Hurricane Melissa also affected parts of Haiti, the Dominican Republic, Cuba, the Bahamas, the Turks and Caicos Islands, and Bermuda. How were our brothers affected? Thankfully, none of our brothers or sisters were killed, but 14 were injured. A combined total of 679 were displaced, 79 homes were destroyed, and 1,165 additional homes were damaged. 4 kingdom halls were destroyed. 40 kingdom halls and 5 assembly halls were also damaged. 4 disaster relief committees are providing help. When disasters like these occur, we're deeply concerned about our brothers and sisters. It's just as the Apostle Paul said at 1 Corinthians 12, 25, and 26. So that there should be no division in the body, but its members should have mutual concern for one another. If one member suffers, all the other members suffer with it. According to the study note on verse 25, the phrase, its members should have mutual concern for one another, literally means the members should be anxious over one another. It goes on to say, the use of this verb highlights the intensity with which the members of the Christian congregation should care about the spiritual, physical, and material welfare of fellow believers. Please continue to pray earnestly for those affected by disasters earth-wide. We're also deeply grateful for the many volunteers working to provide spiritual, physical, and material relief. And that includes all of you. Thank you for your prayers and your generous donations, which make this relief work possible. Brothers and sisters, whatever challenges you're facing, We're so encouraged to see your zeal for the ministry. That zeal was evident in our recent worldwide preaching campaign. In September 2025, we had the joy of sharing in the global distribution of the Watchtower entitled An End to War, How? We also invited interested ones to the special talk. Here are a couple of encouraging experiences from the campaign. A sister in Argentina made a special effort to share in public witnessing during her lunch break. She knew her employer was a former Bible student, so she told her about the global campaign. She also encouraged her to consider resuming her Bible study. Later, the sister learned that 2 co-workers overheard the conversation and had many questions. As a result, both co-workers accepted a Bible study. The next day, the sister's employer agreed to resume her study. Now all 3 are studying and 2 attended the special talk. In Belgium, a woman kindly greeted 2 sisters who knocked on her door. When the sister showed her the featured issue of the Watchtower, she readily accepted it. On a subsequent visit, the woman told our sisters that she had also visited our website. She had watched the video, Why Does God Allow Suffering? She said that she appreciated the logical, reassuring answers to her questions. The sisters offered her a Bible study, which she gladly accepted. While attending the special talk, the woman listened attentively. After the program, the woman said that she longs to be around people who genuinely want to serve God. She continues to enjoy a regular Bible study. But these experiences are just a tiny glimpse of what happened during the special campaign. But now, let's look at the report of our preaching activities for the 2025 service year. The 2025 year text encouraged us to give Jehovah the glory due his name. Well, Jehovah's people all over the world did just that. We rejoiced to see an average of 9,047,083 publishers. That represents a 2.5% increase. What's more, out of the 241 lands where we preach the good news, 96 reported all-time peaks in the number of publishers. In addition to the worldwide campaign to offer Bible studies in September 2024, various branches hosted local preaching campaigns during the service year. The emphasis on starting conversations and offering Bible studies clearly has Jehovah's blessing. For example, from June to August 2025, our brothers and sisters in Peru shared in a preaching campaign. What was the objective? To reach communities in 5 diverse regions of the country. These range from the Amazon River to high in the Andes Mountains. What was the response? During the campaign, nearly 10,000 people expressed interest in our Bible study course and asked to learn more about it. Similarly, from July to August 2025, thousands of our brothers and sisters shared in the first ever preaching campaign in Zambia's Western Province. An estimated 1.3 million people live in this vast and beautiful region. For many people who live in remote areas of the province, this was their first opportunity to hear the Bible's message. What was the result? During the campaign, over 24,500 people requested a Bible study. Isn't that amazing? Truly, the fields are white for harvesting. In fact, worldwide, there was a 1.6% increase in the number of Bible studies conducted last service year. And it was heartwarming to see that 304,643 were baptized during the service year. This is a 2.8% increase over last year. And what about the memorial attendance? How encouraging that 20,635,015 attended the memorial, and 15 lands reported an all-time peak attendance. Let's hear some additional highlights from the 2025 service year report.
In the Philippines, we had a new peak averaging over 268,200 publishers. And recently, for the 37th month in a row, we reached a new peak in regular pioneers, now totaling over 79,000. That's on average 531 new pioneers each month.
In the country of Mexico, we reached a new peak of 879,024 publishers. And we also had a new peak of regular pioneers, more than 173,000.
In Indonesia, we had a peak in the number of publishers, 32,371. That represents a 3% increase over last year. We also recently reached an all-time peak in the number of regular pioneers, over 7,100.
In Angola, we had a 6% increase in the number of publishers. That brought us to over 184,000, which is a new peak. But since then, we've already reached a new all-time peak of 190,939 publishers in September.
In Zimbabwe, we were pleased to see a peak in the number of publishers, over 53,700. That's an increase of 7%. In addition, we recently reached an all-time peak in the number of regular pioneers, over 10,600.
In Congo-Kinshasa, we had an 11% increase in the number of publishers, with over 297,000. We also had all-time peaks in the number of Bible studies and in memorial attendance. In fact, over 1.4 million people attended the memorial. That is over 4 times the number of publishers.
In the country of France, we are happy to report a new peak in the number of publishers, 139,548.
In Madagascar, we had a 7% increase in the number of publishers. That brings us to a new peak of over 44,500. We had nearly 4 times that many attend the memorial, with an all-time peak of 176,453.
In Brazil, we had a new peak of over 930,000 publishers. Since then, we've already reached a new all-time peak of over 940,000 publishers in September.
These are just a few highlights from the 2025 Service Year Report. It's evidence of Jehovah's rich blessing. It also reflects your outstanding zeal for the preaching work. And we take this opportunity to commend you for your share in giving our God the glory due his name. Well, as we've seen in this update, our brothers and sisters are not immune to serious challenges such as natural disasters, but they do not give up in doing what is fine. Jehovah keeps strengthening and blessing these faithful ones. And he's blessing each one of us as we have a full share in the ministry. May we continue to do our very best for Jehovah. Brothers and sisters, please know that we love you all very much and keep you in our prayers. From the world headquarters of Jehovah's Witnesses, this is JW Broadcasting.
Well, we certainly enjoyed that. And since some of you brothers tie into these meetings, we really appreciate all your hard work you're doing all over the world. It gives us a lot of encouragement here in the United States too, from our congregation anyway. Now for our next part, we're going to invite Brother Scott Gustafson up. He's going to deliver the part, Update on the Fishkill Support Center Project.
We are pleased to see Jehovah's Spirit and direction on construction projects in our branch territory. While many are familiar with the project underway in Ramapo, significant progress has also been made and continues at the other Bethel facilities across New York. One of the largest ongoing efforts is at the Fishkill site. This development will function as a support center and will feature a new 2-story office building, a maintenance facility, and various other amenities designed to benefit the Bethel family serving in that area. Although the primary construction has been contracted out, Bethel personnel will be directly involved in several key aspects of the work, including framing, drywall installation, plumbing, and many of the interior finishes. We're happy to share some pictures with updates on the project. So So far, the existing warehouse building has been demolished and extensive site work has been completed. The 3 new buildings are now enclosed and interior construction is actively progressing. Significant utility and site work will continue in preparation for the development of outdoor spaces. Although there is still much work to be done, we eagerly await the completion of this project and the opportunity to use it to honor Jehovah. If you've been able to assist in any of these areas, please be assured that your continued support is very important to this project. A project of this size requires significant funds for building materials, supplies, tools, and equipment. Thank you for the many donations that have helped to offset this cost that have already been received online at donate.jw.org or placed in a contribution box. Your willing contributions reflect your appreciation for Jehovah and his house of worship. Thanks for the images, brothers. Please continue to pray for Jehovah's Holy Spirit for the successful completion of this project. As it says in Zechariah chapter 4, verse 6, he then said to me, "This is the word of Jehovah to Zerubbabel, not by a military force, nor by power, but by my Spirit, says Jehovah of armies." If you would like to know how you can assist, please ask the elders. Thank you for your ongoing support, whether by prayers, volunteering, or donations.
Thank you, Scott. And now to our congregation Bible study. That'll be handled by Brother Joel Kostachek.
Well, in our Learn from the Bible publication here, we're at lessons number 40 and 41. In tonight's lesson, please focus on David's desire to rely on Jehovah and also take note of what age he was whenever he started to really do that. And also in the second study, please take note of David's efforts to be a peacemaker, even whenever he was dealing with a fellow worshiper that was really giving him a hard time. So we're going to go right into this. Brother Jace Wilson is our reader tonight. Lesson number 40, David and Goliath.
Jehovah told Samuel, "Go to the house of Jesse. One of his sons will be the next king of Israel." So Samuel went to Jesse's house. When he saw the oldest son, he thought, "This young man must be the one." But Jehovah told Samuel that was not the one. Jehovah said, "I see what is in a person's heart, not just what he looks like on the outside." Jesse brought 6 more of his sons to Samuel. But Samuel said, "Jehovah has not chosen any of them. Do you have other sons?" Jesse said, "I have one more, my youngest boy, David. He's out taking care of my sheep." When David came in, Jehovah told Samuel, "He is the one." Samuel poured oil on David's head, anointing him as the future king of Israel. Sometime later, the Israelites were at war with the Philistines, who had a giant warrior named Goliath fighting for them. Day after day, Goliath mocked the Israelites. He shouted, "Send me a man who will fight me. If he wins, we will be your slaves. But if I win, you will be our slaves." David came to the Israelites' army camp with food for his brothers who were soldiers. He heard Goliath and said, "I will fight him." King Saul said, "But you are just a boy." David replied, "Jehovah will help me." Saul tried to let David use his armor, but David said, "I can't fight in this armor." David took his sling and went to a stream. He chose 5 smooth stones and put them in a pouch. Then David ran towards Goliath. The giant shouted, "Come here, little boy. I will feed you to the birds of the sky and to the wild animals." David wasn't afraid. He shouted back, "You come with a sword and a spear, but I come in the name of Jehovah. You are fighting not against us, you're fighting against God. Everyone here will see that Jehovah is more powerful than a sword or a spear. He will give up all of you into our hand. David slipped a stone into his sling and swung it as hard as he could. With Jehovah's help, the sling shot out and sank into Goliath's forehead. The giant fell dead to the ground. Then the Philistines ran for their lives. Do you trust in Jehovah as David did?
Thank you, Brother Wilson. So the first question is, who did Jehovah choose as the next king of Israel? Let's go to the Flay family on Zoom.
Jehovah chose David to be the next future king.
Okay, very good. And Brother Lafdany? He's going to need a microphone there.
And he was the youngest, he was the littlest, he was the least likely, but Jehovah saw something that the men couldn't see.
That's right. Okay, we're going to focus on that in a little bit. Okay. And let's take a look at that in the scriptures briefly here. Let's open to 1 Samuel 16, verse 7. And who would like to read this for us? Let's see. Sister Castellanos, please, on Zoom.
It says, "But Jehovah said to Samuel, do not pay attention to his appearance and how tall he is, for I have rejected him. For the way that man sees is not the way God sees, because mere man sees what appears to the eyes, but Jehovah sees into the heart."
Yes, so what are some of the things that Jehovah saw in David? Sister Turner, please, on Zoom.
Jehovah saw that although he was the smallest of Jesse's sons, he had the biggest faith in Jehovah.
Very good. And we have a nice, I'll have to mute there. There we go. So we have a nice illustration too with that picture. And it looks like he is quite the young man. What did you appreciate about this illustration yourself? Let's see, Brother Lafdany, Sister Lafdany.
His brothers aren't the only ones that are confused. He seems like, as a child, he's confused too. One of his hands is like looking like, what's going on? But Jehovah knew.
That's right. Okay, Brother Clegg.
It's really notable what Jehovah says he saw in him. It was seeing something from his heart. And it's even at times later when David's asking for favor upon his sons, Jehovah asks for them to have a heart towards him. But David already had a heart towards God, and Jehovah knew that from early on.
Very good observation. Okay, so the second question, how did David defeat Goliath? What did you appreciate? Oh, we have one from Cassius Clegg. Let's see what he has to say. Cassius, what's your answer? Let's get you unmuted first. There we go.
David threw a stone at Goliath, and he fell in his head. Then he fell.
Ouch. Okay, very good. Nice job. All right. And Sister Rosas, please, on Zoom.
And David defeated Goliath with Jehovah's help, and with one stone, and it shows that Jehovah is more powerful than any sword or stone, or any sword or spear. I'm sorry.
Okay, well, that's very true. Let's get Sister Lopez.
And in verses 34 and 35 of 1 Samuel 17, David's telling the stories of the lion and the bear that he fought and what he did to accomplish this. But then later in verse 37, he says it was Jehovah who rescued him from the claws of the lion and the bear. And then he said he was confident that it was Jehovah who would rescue him from Goliath.
Okay, very nice. I'm glad you highlighted that. And then Brother Basil, right behind you.
he said that with sort of a childlike simplicity. It was very black and white to him. But when he prepared for the battle, he was not overconfident because he selected 5 stones. It only took the one to take out a giant. But he had the wherewithal to think, I'm not going to overthink this. I know Jehovah, the battle is in his hands. But I liked that little detail when you read the account in 1 Samuel 17.
Okay, no, thank you very much for that. All right, and Brother Lopez up here in front.
I think about at the start of the second to last paragraph, it says Saul tried to let David use his armor, but David said, I can't fight in this armor. And it must have been a real comfort for this account and also for many other experiences later on in David's life, because he had already been anointed to be the next king. So Jehovah would make sure that he would not die or suffer in any way in battle because he had to be the next king. So of course he wouldn't go and do something reckless or foolish, but he still knew that Jehovah had his back.
Okay, no, thank you very much for highlighting that. Okay. And Sister Raquel Clegg on Zoom.
And I also find it interesting that David went to check on his older brothers that were supposed to be taking the lead and these fierce warriors. And he was the first one to stand up to this giant. And he didn't think twice about it. And so that helps us to see also what Jehovah saw in his heart when he chose him, even though he was young, because his trust in Jehovah was never doubted, even though it might have been for the older brothers.
Okay, good point. Okay, now let's get into some supplemental questions because we really want to dig into what we can learn from this account here. So this first question here for the supplemental questions, what does this account teach us about Jehovah? Sister Gustafson, right here, please.
Well, it was interesting that after Samuel anointed David, it was the spirit of Jehovah that began to empower David from that day forward. But then we can contrast that with King Saul, who, although he heard Goliath taunting Jehovah, he was too afraid to take a stand. So what that teaches me is that true courage doesn't come from inside ourselves, but it's a product of reliance on Jehovah and also his Holy Spirit.
Thank you very much for that. Very nice. Sister Geiger on Zoom.
That teaches me that it doesn't matter what size the bully is, that Jehovah is stronger than that bully. It doesn't matter. Knowing that and knowing that Jehovah is our friend, so the next time we're afraid, we know that we've got the strongest person on our side, and that's Jehovah.
Okay, thank you very much, Sister Geiger. And that's a nice illustration of a big bully right there. And Brother Wilson had a very good bully voice there for a minute, so we can really appreciate it. Let's get Sister Smith on Zoom.
It also teaches me that, that I know that Jehovah doesn't look at the age. He sees everyone, small and great, and he can use any of them, but he watches us. He knows our personalities from when we're small. So he sees the young ones, which we're very proud of in our congregation.
Absolutely. Yeah, we were impressed by the way that he sees our potential. Sister Chin on Zoom.
In 1 Samuel 17:33, where Saul says, "For you are but a boy," it reminded me of Jeremiah, where he says to Jehovah, "I am just a boy." And in both situations, whether it's David, where he had his brothers and the king doubt whether he could accomplish this assignment, or Jeremiah, who felt like he didn't have the qualifications to do what Jehovah was asking of him. In both situations, Jehovah empowered both people to do what has never been done before. So this reminds me of how much Jehovah loves us and how he wants us to build true confidence in him and to do things that we could never think we could do ourselves.
Oh, very good point. Okay. And Brother Kostachek?
And to go along with that, Jehovah saw in David what maybe David didn't even see in himself, and we didn't see until later in his life. So if that's us, if Jehovah's looking at us, we may underestimate ourselves, we may underestimate what we can do. But with Jehovah and if we let him help us and develop us, then we can achieve anything with faith.
Okay, very good. Sister Hawkins on Zoom.
I appreciated the fact that David did not make this trial about himself,
Goliath said to him, come here, little boy, I will feed you to the birds. David didn't say, well, I'm going to show you what I can do. David made it about Jehovah. He said, I come in the name of Jehovah. So sometimes as humans, we can get offended and lose sight of what our focus is. David never did that. So if we're in a troublesome situation, someone taunts us or talks negatively about us personally, we want to remember it's about Jehovah and not ourselves.
Good points. Very good. How about this next question? What practical lessons can we learn from this account? Now, we heard some practical lessons already, but what do you think? Brother Gustafson, please.
I was thinking that it's important to remember to pray to Jehovah when you're going to go into a situation. You got to rally your courage. David had faced lions and bears. He hadn't faced 9.5-foot tall men before, but he no doubt said to himself, you know what, this is a big situation. He was ready, raring to go when he got there, but he must have been praying to Jehovah about it. Jehovah, I know something's got to be done about this. Please bless me to be able to do something with it. And Jehovah gave him the strength to be able to get him going, and that he rallied his courage and was able to go out into the battle.
Excellent. I love that. Let's get Sister Boulay on Zoom.
When David courageously volunteered to fight Goliath, he obviously trusted that Jehovah would keep his promise to make him king. So he trusted that Jehovah would allow him to survive his fight with Goliath in order to become king. And our trust in Jehovah's future promises can instill courage in us too.
Absolutely. And then one more, Sister White on Zoom.
While Goliath saw David, David was able to see the situation as it really was. He was able to have enough spiritual perception that he was able to, well, figuratively, see Jehovah. And that allowed him to act courageously. And his courage was contagious because after he slayed Goliath, the rest of Judah, they broke out into shouting and they began to pursue the Philistines. So we can imitate David by having our solid faith move us to be courageous, and it can even have effect on others as well.
That's right. Jehovah was so real to him that he ran at the giant. That's an unbelievable story. And one more, Brother Haynes in the back.
Our pop-out verse there in Mark 10:27 really highlights the point of this lesson. With men it is impossible, but not so with God, for all things are possible with God. So we don't know what we might have to face in the future, what kind of persecution, what trials, but we can be convinced that just as Jehovah was with David, Jehovah will be with us, and we will be able to accomplish things that we never thought we could.
Very true. David didn't have to be a professional sling thrower. He could have just thrown it and Jehovah would have made it happen, right? Okay. Excellent lessons. Dig into the Bible reading. It's a fantastic story. Okay. But for time's sake, let's move forward. We're going to move now to lesson 41, David and Saul.
After David killed Goliath, King Saul put him in charge of his army. David won many battles and he became very popular. Whenever David came home from war, the women would come out dancing and singing. Saul has struck down thousands, and David has struck down tens of thousands. Saul became jealous of David and wanted to kill him. David could play the harp very well. One day, while David was playing the harp for Saul, the king hurled his spear at him. David dodged it just in time, and the spear shot into the wall. After that, Saul tried many more times to kill David. Eventually, David ran away and hid in the desert. Saul took an army of 3,000 men and went hunting for David. He happened to enter the very cave where David and his men were hiding. David's men whispered, "This is your chance to kill Saul." David crept toward Saul and cut off a piece of the king's coat. Saul did not notice. Afterwards, David felt very bad that he had not shown respect for Jehovah's anointed king. He did not allow his men to attack Saul. He even called out to Saul, saying that he could have killed Saul when he had the chance. Would Saul change his mind about David? No. Saul kept hunting for David. One night, David and his nephew Abishai sneaked into Saul's camp. Even Abner, Saul's bodyguard, was sleeping. Abishai said, "This is your chance. Let's kill him." David replied, "Jehovah will deal with Saul. Let's just take his spear and his water jug and go." David climbed a nearby mountain that overlooked Saul's camp. He shouted, "Abner, why didn't you protect your king? Where are Saul's jugs and spears?" Saul recognized David's voice and said, "You could have killed me, but you did not. I know that you will be the next king of Israel." Saul went back to his palace, but not all in Saul's family hated David.
Could you read the scripture there also from Romans 12, 18 and 19?
Romans 12, 18 and 19 reads, "If possible, as far as it depends on you, be peaceable with all men. Do not avenge yourselves, beloved, but yield place to the wrath. For it is written, 'Vengeance is mine, I will repay,' says Jehovah."
Thank you very much, Brother Wilson. We really enjoyed your reading. So why did Saul want to kill David? Why did Saul want to kill David? Let's get Brother Lucidis on Zoom.
For the same reason that Cain wanted to kill Abel. Cain was jealous of Jehovah's favor on Abel, and here Saul was jealous of Jehovah's favor on David. So it's so interesting to see how important it is for us to yield to Jehovah, look to see how he is using his spirit, and not get jealous over who he puts his spirit upon.
Okay, good point. All right, Sister Gustafson, please, on Zoom.
And the sad thing about this is that Saul knew that David was the one Jehovah had chosen to be the next king. So in hunting for his life, Saul set himself in direct opposition to Jehovah. But the lesson in this is that it doesn't matter what power a person has, how cunning they are, how persuasive, or how formidable a trial may be. No one and nothing can stand in Jehovah's way. At Isaiah 43:13, Jehovah says, "No one can snatch anything out of my hand. When I act, who can prevent it?"
Excellent scripture. I appreciate that. Okay, so he failed with David. He couldn't kill David. But here's the next question. Why did David refuse to kill Saul whenever he had an opportunity to do so? Actually, a couple of opportunities. Let's see. Sister Basil first, on Zoom.
As you can see in this article, David was refusing to kill Saul because he knew that he felt very bad, and he shown respect for Jehovah's anointed king, who is Saul. But he did not allow his men to attack Saul, even though he'd been hunting for David. But looking at Saul, he said that you could have killed me, but you did not. So David felt bad, and he didn't want to hurt him.
All right, thank you, Hope. Okay, Sister Jones on Zoom.
David knew full well where his success was coming from. Chapter 26, verse 11, he says, "It is unthinkable from Jehovah's standpoint for me to lift my hand against the anointed of Jehovah." Like we talked about before, he knew where the strength from those stones came from Jehovah. All these battles he was doing, David his tens of thousands versus Saul's less, he knew where the strength was coming from. He couldn't afford to lose that. And it's only by Jehovah that he could do the things he did. And only Jehovah was going to remove Saul from his position.
Okay, thank you for bringing that out. And the Rabinowski home, please.
And it may be, it's a good lesson here, but it may be that somebody wronged us and in any way. And maybe that the opportunity to get back on them present itself in some way. It could be, in the congregation setting or business setting or whatever setting we think of. What are we going to do? Well, that's going to test us. and hopefully we'll choose to be like David.
Okay, thank you, Shem. Appreciate that very much. Let's spend more time on the application of this. Let's get into our supplementary questions. What does this account teach us about Jehovah? What did this account teach you about Jehovah? Brother Lafdeni.
That when Jehovah's arrangement carefully selects a man to take the lead, as it was clear that Jehovah had selected David to be a man to take the lead, that gives us a reason to watch that individual or individuals and follow their example because Jehovah selected them. It makes us think of the men that are taking the lead amongst us in the organization today. They are worthy not just of our respect, but they are worthy of our close observation of them so we can follow their good example.
Okay, nice application. Very good. Let's go to the Kruger home on Zoom.
We know that Jehovah looks at qualities. And so we see the fact that Saul, when he was originally picked, had humility. But even as he aged in his assignment, he disobeyed and then later, fell into things like jealousy. And so time in the organization alone, age, wisdom, anything doesn't prevent us from falling into Jehovah's disfavor. So we need to make sure that we stay humble like David, regardless of the things that, whether it's privileges, whether it's, time or even maybe somebody else who appears to do as maybe we feel like they could outdo us. And so maybe there's something that could come up that feels like jealousy. So, to really think about the qualities Jehovah appreciates.
Oh, for sure. Yes, that agrees right along with the treasures talk tonight. Very nice. Brother Turner on Zoom, please.
We know that David is described as a man agreeable to Jehovah's heart. And that statement, when he said, from Jehovah's standpoint, it's unthinkable to kill Saul, kind of sums up David's whole life. He made some mistakes, but his life was guided by that principle. He always thought, what does Jehovah want? And even here, it would have been expedient. He could have just solved his problem by doing it, but he refused. And I was thinking with us, when we're given direction we might not agree with, we can ask Jehovah, please help us have your viewpoint. Please help us adopt your viewpoint as our own. Then that'll make us agreeable to Jehovah.
Okay, thank you very much for that. Nice illustration, too. It was going to be so easy if they just wanted to. There was a deep sleep that had fallen on them. Brother Geiger, please.
Too, what it shows me about Jehovah is you look and consider this time period and account. We don't know why Jehovah allowed this to happen, for how long. We do know Saul had his own choice, and he made this decision, and it was quite an injustice to be done to David. What we do see about Jehovah with this is how throughout this whole time period, Jehovah was there for David. He helped David through this. And we see the example of how David then made his focus was then on his God Jehovah. And what we got out of this really is some good personal in-depth feelings from David in the Bible so that we can relate. So he took something that wasn't necessarily called Jehovah, but Jehovah was always there for him. And we, not only did David benefit, but then we benefited from it because then we get to see how Jehovah will be there for us, even if we face injustices as well.
Okay, thank you very much. And then one more on this question from the Hawkins family on Zoom.
I thought it was interesting here in this one account and 14 where it talks about a bad spirit terrorized Saul. That was because Jehovah's spirit had left Saul because Saul was not not living up to Jehovah's standards there. So I thought it was just a good reminder of how Jehovah is really the only true place that we're going to find that peace. And even David had to play the harp for Saul because he was so troubled. So we're not going to find peace in this world. Jehovah is really, truly only that place that we're going to find the true peace that comes from God.
Okay, thank you very much, Sister Hawkins. So what practical lessons can we learn from this account? And we can think about that idea, that theme of peace, being a peacemaker. What practical lessons? Let Zoom light up a little bit here. Sister Watkins on Zoom, please.
In 1 Samuel chapter 24 and verses 12 and 15, David is telling Saul, may Jehovah judge between you and me. So he was allowing Jehovah to show him that peace, but it also meant that David had to be patient on his part as well. So it's a reminder that at times, if we feel that something unjust or unfair has happened to us, that it's Jehovah that will bring us the sense of peace, but it's important to be patient, not only with Jehovah, but also with ourselves as well.
Wise words, Chloe. Thank you very much. And Sister Gustafson, too, on Zoom. Oh, you know what? There's two of those. Let's go with Selena. Your sister's trying to compete with you. I'm sorry.
I see. No, I did like the tie-in scripture that they had in Romans 12, where it says it really puts the responsibility on us, despite what somebody else is doing, even if they are deliberately provoking us. Like Saul was deliberately chasing David, he was definitely in the wrong. And yet it says, as far as it depends upon you, be peaceable with all men. So Jehovah gives us that responsibility to take upon ourselves to try our best to be peaceable. And again, as we progress into perfection, where everyone takes responsibility to be peaceful with each other, that's how we get that society where everyone doesn't get on each other's nerves. And so that's the goal for the future. But for now, we ourselves are peaceable.
Like water off a duck's back. Okay, thank you very much. Sister Gilmore, please, on Zoom.
And David knew that Saul was anointed by Jehovah and had approved of Jehovah at one point in time. And even though Saul was going wayward, David did not take revenge on him or take it upon himself to try to correct Saul. He left that in Jehovah's hands. And so that's an example for all of us that, and I'm probably piggybacking off of some of the comments, but it's a strong example for us that, you know, whatever a person is doing, and this applies to everybody who is baptized or anointed, that it is going to be solely up to Jehovah to make the corrections with those individuals. Jehovah sees everything. This is his organization, and we want to be careful not to step ahead of him on certain things.
Excellent. That's very good advice, too. Sister, or the Garcia home, please.
And I appreciated how David had to wait on Jehovah. He had to recognize his place at this moment. He wasn't king at this time, and he had to wait to see how Jehovah would fix the situation with fleeing from Saul. And it just taught me a big lesson that maybe I don't see the answer right away from Jehovah, but that if I continue to trust in him and let him deal with the situation, that it will always work out for the best for me, and also have Jehovah's approval as David did.
Very good. Thank you, Terry. And then also the DeFrancis family on Zoom.
I also appreciate that fact as well, because David didn't succumb to peer pressure, because Abishai definitely was ready to kill Saul. So again, we know that he didn't let that happen. David said, no, we'll just let Jehovah take care of it in his due time. So again, I really appreciated that.
All right. Thank you very much, Nicole. So that scripture there, Romans 12, it says, if possible, as far as it depends on you and me, be peaceable with all men. So that's the goal. Obviously, David set the example in that. We have many examples within the congregation. Trials will come up. We'll be tempted to act in an opposite direction, but fight the urge. Be peaceable with our brothers and sisters, because Jehovah is peaceable with us. Thank you very much for your fine comments, especially those on Zoom. We'll look forward to seeing you in person soon.
What a nice meeting we had, really. When you look back at what we considered
early on about our personal accountability to Jehovah and how that aids in the congregation in moving closer to Him. Surely we can reflect on our own conduct as we read the rest of Isaiah. We had a nice reminder about what's going on in Fishkill and beautiful student parts as well. Next week, we get to consider a little bit more about David and Jonathan, which will be exciting, and then concluding with his sins there in his life. And next week, too, we get to consider in Isaiah, "Here I am, send me." And here's an idea for you. For many of us in our congregation, instead of considering "Here I am, send me" as something that maybe we might do more, and do that, consider ways we might improve, why not view it as commendation for some of the things you have done in moving out to this area and being willing to do more? And so that's just an idea. You can take that or leave it. But we do have some announcements that we can consider. Now, firstly, for congregations, this is a branch announcement, the renaming of KH Conf. KH Conf has been renamed JW Conf and updated with added features. The KH Conf apps for iOS, Android, Apple TV, and Roku have been renamed JW Conf in their respective app stores. That's all of our announcements. And so now, to conclude our meeting, we're going to sing the song number 4, which is "Jehovah is My Shepherd," and then we'll look to Zoom for Brother Duhan to close our meeting with prayer.